She had many friends and loved spending time with them. Those moments were always dear to her. She was kind and cheerful, smiling. What they didn't see, couldn't see, was how tired she was upon returning home. The way she collapsed onto her couch, sometimes battling a headache, mulling over how the meeting went. Had she made some mistake? Were there any missteps she overlooked? Glad she found none, or only some minor ones. So small, she hoped no one noticed. She sighed, relieved. This was all so hard for her. She stood up and brewed herself a cup of tea. Soon the steaming cup warmed her hands. The tendrils of overseas scents filling her nose. She walked over to sit by her floor-to-ceiling window, taking a sip from her drink. The hot liquid immediately easing away the tension she felt. Relationships were always a complicated matter for her. She couldn't fathom a life without her close ones, her friends, family, and yet, in times, she caught herself thinking, the more alone I am, the less alone I feel. Here, in the safety of her own home, there wasn't anyone to convince of her well-being, anyone to impress. Here, it was only her, herself, her unfinished book she hoped one day would see the light of the world, longed for it with her entire heart. Her little moments during the day, when she sat by the window, listening to the rush of the city below, a steaming cup in her hands, and a fresh pastry on a table beside. The life she loved so much. And still, every time she received an invitation, she would force herself to go out into the world, meet with people. She always tried to do her best, to come across as an elegant lady, always positive, friendly, when deep inside her, she desired the calm of her small apartment, her cushioned window seat, and a book to read. The more it hurt her when someone oh so casually announced, they take her for cold, emotionless. Even worse, they don't know her at all. She fought hard in those times to keep her tears from falling. Throat tight. She put in such an effort to reach out to her friends, talk to them, have fun, and despite all that, they still say, "We don't know you." She thought she changed majorly in the past year. Apparently, not enough. Because if that wasn't the case, then she had no idea. What in the world was she doing wrong? She believed she wasn't much different from her friends. But they weren't called emotionless. She heaved a long breath. Spiraling down into her own thoughts was nothing but pointless. She loved her life and had no intention in letting others destroy it. But what was the point of trying so hard when at the end of the day it would still be the same? And maybe They were right. They didn't know her. She was not an all-time positive person. She liked a more realistic approach, with a touch of laughter. She was not an extrovert, even when she sometimes wished she could be. She was timid and shy, and crazily ridiculous when she knew no one saw her. But that she wouldn't let anyone see, couldn't let anyone this close. There was a line, a border. Somehow it felt that crossing it was a one-way ticket, and she wasn't sure she was ready. She would have to be strong enough to stand up for who she really is. A dreamer. With her head in the clouds, while her feet fought hard to keep her on the ground, palms smeared with ink from jotting down all the ideas for the stories she made up in her head and was so fond of. A child's mind in the body of a grown-up. That's who she was. And she wouldn't change it for the world. She closed her eyes for a moment, her lips turning upwards. Sometimes the truth dawned on her so unexpectedly, but she never failed to appreciate it. Her phone went off. A message arrived. From her friend. A simple proposal. Dinner tonight? Are you coming? Sighing, she looked at the screen for a long moment. She knew she had a choice. She could simply say she was busy tonight, even if it was a lie. She swiped across the screen to answer, typing quickly. That'd be great. Hitting the send button. Before she can think any better, an answer came almost immediately. Amazing! We will pick you up at 7. She looked at the clock. She had an hour. Plenty of time to put herself together, to look somewhat presentable. She considered wearing a dress. She loved that one. Wore it sometimes at home, simply out of the plain joy it brought her. Instead, she donned a pair of black trousers and a dark blue top, her classic. Nothing could go wrong with that outfit. Her gaze fell to her watch. It was almost time to go. Checking one last time if she had everything she needed, she picked up her coat, threw off her flats, and slid into her heels. She turned around to look into the floor-length mirror and stopped, for she had no idea who the person she stared deep into those eyes was. It was a beautiful woman, but something was off. She was so distant. Her eyes were dull, the light of that pure joy gone. It made her sad to see the soul she knew could shine, dying, bit by bit. And as she forced a smile to that unknown face, she understood. A mask. That's what it was. She wore a mask. Every time she went out. How could anyone ever say they know her when she herself couldn't recognize the person in the mirror, her own reflection? And as the realization dawned on her, she saw the glow coming back. She looked down at her watch, biting her lip. There wasn't much time left. But in a fraction of a second, she threw her heels off and dashed into her closet, donning the dress she contemplated wearing earlier. Put on a bright red lipstick. She always loved that one, but was too afraid it would be looked upon as inappropriate. This time, she didn't care. She slipped into her comfy flats, picking up her coat and purse. And as she was locking the door, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The sight couldn't have been more different. From the foreign person, the stranger who stared back at her only minutes ago. Now, adorning her face, the widest and most pure of smiles, eyes aglow, it was her true self. And as she ran down the stairs and threw the door leading onto the street open to her friends, to her life, the mask shattered once and for all.